Hello boys and girls, it's Danny. Because many of you have asked me how many orchids I have, I did a head count and I have about 80 orchids at this point, not including divisions, small orchids, or orchids that I'm not sure if they're gonna survive. So there are quite a few. So I thought I should show you how I like to water them. In the summertime, I usually take them all in the bathtub and do a proper shower because it's just so hot that I'm not worried of water standing in the crowns for too long. But now it's autumn and it's getting quite cold, especially in the nighttime, so I have to adapt my watering. Now, I usually do this on the balcony floor because it's easier and I can deal with more orchids, but for the sake of, better looking setup, I'm just gonna use my desk here. So I got myself some they're not orchid pots, some pots that don't have drainage holes because I do want to soak them really well. I'm using mainly bark medium, and with bark you really need to soak it really well because it dries up very, very fast. And yeah, I don't want to water them too often because there are too many. So what I do now is I'm just gonna place the orchids that I want to water in these pots. I have about 7 or 8 pots, so I can do all of them at the same time. And I get myself some water in my trusty bucket here. And today it's fertilizing time, and I'm using some new fertilizers that I just bought. This is a brand I heard a lot about, and I decided to give it a go. So I took the 100 milliliters packages just to try them out on some orchids. And because these orchids have sheets and flower spikes and all of that, I'm gonna use Orchid Focus Bloom. The good thing about these fertilizers is that they don't have any nitrogen derived from ammonium or uric acid. Yeah, I'm gonna develop a bit the discussion about uric acid, ammonium, the nitrogen cycle and stuff like that, and why you should tend to use fertilizers that don't have nitrogen in a form that it's not available to the plant. So yeah, as you can see here, no ammonium, just nitrate. Nitrate actually is what plants eat. They cannot take up ammonium at all. They can't. Okay, but I'm gonna get to that in a different discussion. So I just want to try these out. So I've mixed half of the recommended dosage into my bucket just because I'm using tap water, and tap water has more minerals than distilled water or rainwater. And I've read somewhere here these stuff have some other stuff alongside nitrogen and micronutrients. So anyway, yeah, I'm using half the strength because I just don't want to bother with burnt roots or anything. So I'm not gonna pre-moisten them. I don't do that because it's a very diluted solution. And what I do, it's gonna be hard, take a trusty little pot here, just take some water. I didn't take enough, but anyway, you get the idea. And I just pour it until I fill this thing with water, and I just let them sit for a few minutes. Alright, so I'm gonna do that because it's a very difficult process. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna show you some other orchids and how I water them, because not all orchids need the same treatment, or I don't like to water everybody the same way. Okay, be right back. Okay, so after soaking for a few minutes in that water, I like to take them out and put them on some trays like this one to drain the whole water out before I put them back in their place. Also, after a few minutes, while they're draining here while others are soaking, before I put them back, just do this, tilt them to one side slightly, and when there's nothing dripping, I just put them back in their place. Nothing's gonna happen if you have a little bit more water here than normal than up here. Nothing's really gonna happen. It's not that crazy. Okay, don't let water sit in the trays that you keep your orchids in, but don't go mental about it. It's not that bad. Don't overreact with orchids. They're not that hard to keep. Anyway, another thing that I do, I reuse the water that I let them soak in for some of the orchids, because there are 2 reasons. One, I have way too many orchids to just change the water in the bucket every 8 orchids. That would mean at least 10 roads to the kitchen to get water and stuff like that. So I don't do that. And second, if I'm fertilizing the water, I would go through this bottle in like 3 waterings or 4 waterings. And yeah, it's not economical. But I do it on my own risk. I don't recommend you do it. If you have a few orchids, you know, don't be lazy. Don't reuse the water. If you have a lot of orchids, you know, think about the risks and you know, assume the risks. And also, it's good to make sure that all the orchids are repotted in a bark medium that you know, and you're sure that there are no parasites in the pots that you can transfer to other orchids. You know, take some precaution measures. I told you, I'm not saying you should do that. This is how I do it, and so far so good. But I do know my orchids very well. Not well, very well. I do know what's in everybody's pots. So the ones that I didn't repot, I water them separately, not with the other girls. So, okay, let's carry on. Okay, so I've used this fertilizer on everything that I see has either flower spikes, either sheaths, either they are supposed to produce flower spikes right now. And this includes some oncidiums that have, I just noticed they have formed already some little flower spikes in here. So yeah, I'm just gonna use this one because this is what it says on the label. You should use it when you see flower spikes emerging or sheaths. So I also watered the Dendrobium phalaenopsis because they are producing spikes as well right now. I'm gonna do an update later. And I also used it on the phalaenopsis because they are supposed to produce flower spikes you know, this fall. I really love fall. Everything is starting to grow flower spikes, big stuff ahead of me. So I really enjoy to examine all my orchids in the morning, see what everybody's doing, what I should expect, and so on and so forth. Okay, for the other ones that are producing new pseudobulbs or roots, they're in the growing mode, I'm gonna use this fertilizer. So it's time now to change the water in my bucket and fertilize it with this one, Have Strength again. The difference between this one and the other one is that this one has where is it? It has more nitrogen than the others. The others tended to have more potassium and phosphorus. Alrighty, let's get to it. Okay, so now a quick note on the different orchids that I have and how I like to fertilize them. The Dendrobium nobile orchids received their last fertilized water. It was high nitrogen, and when the night temperatures will go low enough, I will stop watering them altogether because they are done growing. Actually, they still have growing roots, so this was the last time I fertilized them until I see flowers and buds and everything. When I'm gonna see some buds, I'm gonna start gently fertilizing them. Gently, that sounds weird. I'm gonna start fertilizing them lightly with the bloom fertilizer again. And when I will see new growth, new keikis and roots, which will happen most probably in spring, I will start normal fertilizing with high nitrogen. But until then, they will go on the other balcony and they will receive cool temperatures, drier conditions, and no more fertilizer. Okay, these little guys also received fertilizer, but these ones will receive only high nitrogen fertilizer until they will be mature, because I will not expect any blooms from these little guys. And yeah, I fertilize them lightly, only with high nitrogen fertilizer, which will help them develop the new shoots and you know, grow strong roots and everything. I don't fertilize at all the orchids that I just repotted or that I just received until I figure out if roots are growing, leaves are developing and stuff like that. Because if the orchid is not properly you know, established in the pot, it doesn't have an active growth, fertilizing it will either do nothing, either do more harm, so I don't want that. So the ones I just repotted will not get fertilized until I see root tips growing rapidly, new leaves emerging and stuff like that. Okay, so other than that, I think that's about it actually. This is how I like to water my orchids, all 80 something of them. Again, maybe you shouldn't follow all my steps. I mean, if you have a lot less orchids, don't be lazy with them. Water them separately, because you never know if you're going to transmit any parasites or diseases. If you do have a lot of orchids, if you're doing something similar to what I do, then I can totally understand you. And I'll tell you a little secret. Everybody does it, but don't tell anybody. But yeah, everybody does it. Like they're bending the rules. They're using the same water. They're watering them in the bathtub, you know, because having a lot of orchids is a hassle, and it shouldn't be a hassle. It should be a nice hobby. I mean, I get very relaxed when I water my orchids, especially now that it's autumn and it's cool. It's a very relaxing thing to do, you know, you just disconnect from everything. But yeah, I don't want to make it into a hassle, so you should find your own rhythm, you should find your own ideas. But I really wanted to share with you how I like to water my orchids, just so you see that, you know, you don't have to be scared of them. You're always reading stuff like, don't do this, don't do that, they're gonna die, and you get really, really scared at some points, and you're like, okay, the hell with it, I'm not gonna grow orchids, they die off if I do the slightest mistake. No, they don't. They really, really don't. So, yeah, I bend the rules a lot. A lot. I mean, these dendrobiums get full sun all day long right now, because I really want to have some blooms, and nothing's happening. But I kind of I got them used to the sun. So, yeah, there's a lot of things that I do wrong, maybe, according to some. But this is how I water my orchids, and I blabbed so much. So, thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe, and I will see you next time. Take care, bye!